I think I finally found the product that's worth selling your kidneys for, and that is none other than the Samsung Odyssey G8. This thing is the epitome of what a 4K gaming OLED monitor looks like, no pun intended, and it is loaded with some serious features. The 2025 model is an absolute beast. There is so much to cover in this review to show you guys exactly what an enthusiast class gaming monitor is all about, so let's get right into it. Can we just take a moment to appreciate how easy it is to assemble this thing? So you have the stand piece itself, which just mechanically attaches to the main body. It's really straightforward, no further assembly required. And then the base itself also just rotates right into place, it locks in, and you're good to go. Speaking of which, let's take a moment to also respect how well built this monitor is. It's super sleek and thin. In fact, it's so slim that you might be a little anxious around it, hoping you don't break it, but you don't have to worry because you have a full metallic encasing on the backside, which again provides a lot of structural integrity and makes sure this thing is super durable. As far as the actual swivel mechanisms go, you have a ton of flexibility. You can obviously swivel left and right, up and down. You can adjust the height of the monitor as well. You can also tilt it to a near, well, technically you could do a full vertical tilt. However, we don't have enough clearance with the base stand, but if you are using this with a tall enough monitor arm, you could do a full vertical tilt if you wanted. All the ports are located directly on the bottom backside over here, so we do have two fully loaded HDMI 2.1 ports. We do have DisplayPort version 1.4, I'll talk about that in just a second. We do have two USB-A ports, and then you have a USB-B port for firmware updates, and then of course you have the DC port. What I find underwhelming here is the fact that we don't get DisplayPort version 2.1, and also there's no Type-C ports on a 2025 monitor. Definitely a little underwhelming on that side, but you do have all the ports you need to get the most out of this monitor in terms of pure visuals. Alright, so let's get right into the juicy details, the monitor specs of course. Now, this right here is the 32-inch variant of the Odyssey G8. It is of course using Samsung's in-house QD-OLED technology. It's got a sharp 4K resolution, true blacks, and equally impressive a 240Hz refresh rate. Of course, add to that the fact that you have a vendor-claimed 0.3 millisecond response rate for a truly low latency experience. This thing is fantastic for games that look visually appealing, but also for games where you need that competitive advantage with low latency like first-person shooters. The result is that you now have one less excuse to blame the hardware and not yourself when you're not doing good in a fast-paced game. Nonetheless, it is an absolutely amazing monitor. Of course, we also did do some general testing around ghosting and artifact tearing, and even with FreeSync on, we found that ghosting is pretty much negligible. Samsung does such a great job at making this a smooth experience all around, and all our tests pass with flying colors. The Odyssey G8 features a SDR peak brightness of 250 nits and a peak HDR brightness all the way up to 1000 nits. Now look, at first glance 250 nits might not seem like a lot for monitor brightness, and that would be true except for the fact that Samsung has incorporated their glare-free coating over here. I gotta tell you guys, as far as anti-glare coating goes, this is one of the best iterations I've seen. This thing pretty much dissipates any source of external light, which means that you don't need a lot of brightness to begin with to have a great viewing experience. And in fact, it almost gives the optical illusion of having a lot more brightness in SDR than you actually do at a peak level. Nonetheless, it is worth noting, if you are a big fan of glossy OLED displays, you won't get that. You have a matte finish over here, by design of course. Thanks to high standards like VESA Display True Black 400, HDR10 Plus certification, and of course a 99% DCI-P3 color gamut coverage, this thing is fantastic for everything outside of gaming as well, which includes watching multimedia content, photo or video editing of course, and you can also use this for general productivity, whether it's surfing the web or doing programming. It's a all-around monitor with so much versatility that again makes it great for gaming and non-gaming uses alike. Look, we've all heard the horror stories around OLED burn-in. It is in fact a real thing to consider. However, Samsung has typically always been at the forefront of making sure that burn-in management is baked into all their OLED monitors. And the latest generation here using their Safeguard Plus technology, which literally means you have heat pipes that are stacked within the body of this monitor that are consistently and dynamically cooling the monitor by radiating the heat out of the body itself and also making sure it's evenly dissipated. And I gotta tell you, relative to other OLED monitors that I reviewed, this one actually seems to be the coolest temperature wise of the bunch, which definitely gives me confidence that several years from now, burn-in will be a negligible factor at most. You also have a super intuitive built-in menu for the monitor where you can adjust all the settings like contrast, brightness, and all the other nifty features. You can also use your turn FreeSync on or off. And yes, you would also use this to adjust the backlighting you have, so that circular RGB light you have over here can be actually fully customized and adjusted from the menu. In summary, guys, this truly is a enthusiast class gaming monitor. And look, it's not for the faint of heart. To truly utilize that 4K 240 Hz display, you need some pretty powerful hardware that can keep up with it. Of course, when you do achieve that singularity, visually speaking, this is such a beautiful display to look at that when you look at any other display that's not in the same class category, it's almost like torture to your eyes. But I gotta tell you, of course, this monitor is perfect for anyone who wants uncompromised 4K gaming. That's the principal reason you'll want to get this. With that said, it also has a sleek form factor, of course having the Safeguard Plus heat pipe technology, or I believe dynamic cooling technology as Samsung calls it, gives you the peace of mind that burn-in won't be a factor you have to consider when using this monitor for prolonged periods. And then yes, also having a high quality build alongside a bunch of other technical specs that I mentioned earlier are all going to work to your advantage. The only thing that could have been better is the inclusion of DisplayPort version 2.1 and at least one Type-C port, but that's not going to be a huge factor for most of you. And as long as you can look past that, this really is one of the best top tier monitors you can get in the industry right now, and it's one that I can wholeheartedly recommend in that capacity. If you are interested in getting this monitor, I will of course have product links in the video description below. Feel free to check those out. And if you guys enjoyed the content, make sure you hit that like button and sub to our channel. Catch you in the next one.